What if everything you've been told about Morocco's ancient past was wrong? For centuries, we've imagined Morocco as a crossroads, a land shaped by outsiders, from Roman conquerors to Arab settlers, each wave leaving its mark on Moroccan identity. But deep in the Sahara Desert, a discovery shattered all our assumptions. Picture this, beneath layers of sand, hidden in a forgotten rock shelter called Taforalt, two mysterious mummies slept undisturbed for 7,000 years. Who were these women, wrapped in timeless silence, guardians of secrets no historian ever suspected? Scientists carefully unraveled strands of their ancient DNA, hoping to confirm stories of migration, of intermixing cultures, of people freely moving across lush, green lands where today only desert sands remain. But what emerged was not a tale of exchange. Instead, the DNA told a shocking story. These people belonged to a lineage completely isolated, cut off from the rest of the world for tens of thousands of years. Imagine a lush Sahara, green fields, flowing rivers, animals roaming freely. It was the perfect corridor for human movement, a place where you'd expect cultures to mix easily. But the DNA whispered a different truth. This paradise was also a prison, a hidden boundary that separated one ancient people from all others. How could such lushness conceal isolation so deep? What invisible walls kept them apart, even in times of plenty? Their genetic code, untouched and alone, challenges everything we knew. It defies our stories of openness, reshapes the roots of Moroccan identity, and forces us to confront an impossible question. If the Sahara, even when green, was never truly open, what other secrets lie hidden beneath the sands? This lineage changes everything, but why, in a world so open, did it remain isolated? Hidden deep in Morocco's rugged hills, beneath the shadow of jagged cliffs, lies Taforalt, the oldest known cemetery in all of Africa. Imagine it, bodies gently laid to rest, surrounded by shells and animal horns, mysterious tokens whispered by a culture now vanished. But why here? Why did these ancient people gather, generation after generation, burying their loved ones in this sacred cave, thousands of years before history began? For decades, archaeologists believed the answer was simple. These people must have arrived from somewhere else. Their ancient bones hinted at distant lands, far beyond Africa's borders, connecting Morocco's past with the mysteries of Europe, or perhaps distant southern tribes. They expected to find sub-Saharan ancestry, confirming that Morocco was always a meeting place of outsiders, shaped by migration and movement. But then, the bones began to speak, and everything changed. When scientists finally decoded the ancient DNA from Taforalt's graves, they expected to uncover familiar threads of sub-Saharan heritage. Instead, they found something astonishing, a distinct lineage, entirely North African, untouched by any outside influence. The Taforalt people were never outsiders. They belonged to Morocco's hidden past, a lineage completely their own, stretching back tens of thousands of years. And their genetic signatures revealed an unexpected bond, a mysterious link connecting them to the isolated Taforalt mummies, buried deep in Libya's Sahara, thousands of years later. Imagine this invisible thread, spanning deserts and generations, quietly linking two forgotten groups. A story of resilience and isolation, unbroken despite time and distance. But why did this ancient culture cling so fiercely to their own ways, keeping their identity pure, unaltered through millennia? What powerful force kept their lineage hidden, distinct, preserved like a secret waiting patiently beneath desert sands? And yet, despite this powerful connection, this ancient bond between Taforalt and Taforalt, the graves at Taforalt held yet another secret, more profound, more haunting, hidden even deeper within their bones. Deep within the bones of Morocco's ancient people, hidden beneath layers of dust, silence, and time, lies a secret that defies imagination. A secret so unsettling, it questions our very definition of what it means to be human. We thought we knew the Neanderthals, primitive, brutish figures, trapped forever in Europe's frozen caves, distant cousins who vanished long before history began. But the DNA extracted from Taforalt's ancient bones revealed something impossible, something deeply unsettling. These ancient Moroccans, buried with care and reverence beneath the cliffs, carried a surprising legacy: Neanderthal DNA. Significant amounts of it. How could these gentle, thoughtful people, who honored their dead with delicate shells and sacred rituals, share such intimate connections with a people we believed to be worlds apart? Imagine that moment, two human species meeting under starlit skies or beside quiet rivers. The cautious approach, the uncertain glances, the tension between curiosity and fear. They were strangers in every sense, different worlds, different lineages. Yet somehow, bonds formed, connections deepened. This discovery forces us to confront the most haunting question of all. Did Neanderthals, once thought confined to cold European forests, journey far into the warmer heartlands of Africa? Or did our own ancestors wander back from Europe, carrying Neanderthal genes in their veins, weaving this mysterious heritage into the tapestry of North Africa's ancient identity? We imagined ourselves separate from these vanished cousins, distant observers of their extinction, but Taforalt's hidden truth suggests otherwise. Our ancestors embraced them, exchanged cultures, blended lives, creating something new, something deeply human. But what does this ancient mixing mean for the story we thought we knew, the story of humanity's earliest footsteps? Could everything we believe about the journey of humans out of Africa and back again be incomplete or even wrong? Could ancient Morocco rewrite our entire understanding of the out-of-Africa story? Long before recorded history, when the Mediterranean Sea was wild and uncharted, something impossible happened. Picture it now. Ancient boats, fragile vessels crafted from wood and animal skins, floating quietly beneath moonlit skies. In these boats, faces hardened by winds, eyes scanning an endless horizon, Stone Age voyagers daring to cross from the shores of Europe into the unknown lands of Africa. We thought these journeys impossible, that ancient seas were barriers, walls separating distant worlds. But buried in Tunisia's soil, hidden beneath layers of sand and silence, lay evidence that changed everything we believed about human courage and the reach of ancient curiosity. Scientists uncovered tiny fragments of volcanic glass, a stone that sparkles mysteriously in sunlight, foreign to North African shores, carried from distant islands by hands thousands of years gone. But that wasn't all. Inside the bones of one ancient man, who lived and died nearly 9,000 years ago, a startling genetic truth lay hidden. He carried European hunter-gatherer DNA, long before farming ever reshaped human civilization. These weren't farmers bringing crops or herds. These were brave hunters and explorers, voyagers pushing limits, testing the unknown. Yet, despite their incredible journey, despite successfully landing on African shores, these ancient contacts left almost no lasting genetic trace in North Africa. Why? Why would these fearless explorers, who braved the open sea, leave behind almost no descendants? Did they fail to connect with locals, or did something deeper, more mysterious, prevent their genes from blending into North Africa's tapestry? We stand now, at the edge of this ancient mystery, wondering, were these voyagers merely visitors, touching briefly on the shores of Africa before disappearing back into history's shadows? Or did they pave the way for something far greater, something yet to come? Because even though their legacy faded, Europe's deepest impact on Africa was still on the horizon, waiting patiently to reshape everything through farming. Imagine a quiet dawn breaking over North Africa, a gentle mist rising from golden fields, rich and fertile, waving gently beneath the sun's first light. The scent of freshly tilled earth fills the air, a symbol of stability, prosperity, and change. But this peaceful image hides a secret tension, a hidden struggle between two worlds. Thousands of years ago, farming arrived in Morocco not as an idea gently shared, but as waves of people flooding across the sea, bringing their own seeds, animals, and lifestyles. Their arrival wasn't quiet, it was powerful, transformative, overwhelming. In Morocco's western lands, nearly 80% of the ancient DNA was suddenly European. Imagine this shift. Families who'd wandered freely for generations, now surrounded by new faces, strange customs, and unknown crops springing from the earth beneath their feet. But travel eastward, where the sun rises above deserts unchanged for millennia, and the story is astonishingly different. Here, farming didn't storm in with a surge of newcomers. Instead, it trickled softly, slowly, like whispers carried by desert winds. Eastern communities watched, learned, and adapted, without giving up their ancient bloodlines. They adopted crops, they herded animals, but their DNA stayed uniquely North African, untouched by outsiders. Visualize it. Two worlds standing side by side, fields of golden grain stretching toward horizon lines, facing desert tribes who remain proudly rooted in ancient traditions. The West transformed into something new, blended, reshaped, and deeply changed, while the East guarded its identity fiercely, cautiously absorbing only what suited their ancient ways. Yet beneath this peaceful coexistence lay a powerful question. Why did the East resist genetically, while the West embraced total transformation? Was it a choice, a subtle rejection of outsiders? Or was something else, something deeper, more profound at work? What mysterious force allowed the Eastern Maghreb to adopt foreign ways, yet remain genetically untouched, defying the powerful currents of human history? Imagine a lush, green paradise stretching endlessly beneath the sun, where rivers shimmer, lakes sparkle, and wildlife roam freely under skies untouched by desert dust. This was the Sahara, long before the sand swallowed its secrets. But behind this picture of abundance and life lies a deeper, darker mystery. You'd think this vibrant, open land would naturally bring people together. Families would travel, tribes would mingle, new bonds would form in this vast oasis beneath endless skies. Yet strangely, impossibly, ancient DNA reveals something very different. Even at its greenest, most inviting, the Sahara was no meeting place. Instead, it remained a hidden barrier, silent, powerful, invisible, keeping apart populations living on either side of its fertile beauty. The evidence is haunting. Taforalt's isolated lineage, thriving for thousands of years without mingling, even as rivers flowed freely and wildlife roamed between them. This wasn't isolation by chance. This was separation by choice, or perhaps something deeper, more mysterious. Pastoralism, herding sheep, goats, cattle, spread widely across the Sahara. It was a revolution, transforming communities, reshaping lives, but strangely, not their genetics. People learned, adapted, and changed, but they didn't blend. Their identities remained fiercely intact, passed down through generations, untouched. Picture it clearly. Two tribes standing near a crystal-clear river, separated by nothing visible, yet worlds apart in heritage. Each tribe practicing similar customs, herding animals, sharing knowledge, but never bloodlines. What was this invisible force? Was it cultural pride? Fear? Ancient rivalry? Or was there an unspoken understanding, a hidden agreement, to remain separate, each protecting their ancient heritage? This enduring separation defies logic, contradicts nature, turning everything we assumed upside down. It challenges our idea of human nature, of openness, and of curiosity itself. What if the Sahara's isolation wasn't about deserts or drought, rivers or forests, but something deeper, something we cannot see or touch, something rooted, not in the environment, but in human hearts? Was the Sahara's isolation truly about environment, or something deeper? Imagine a bustling ancient harbor, filled with merchants speaking a strange tongue, carrying treasures from distant lands. These were the Punics, settlers from the faraway Levant, creators of Carthage, and builders of one of history's great empires. For centuries, historians thought their identity was clear: Levantine settlers, travelers who carried their bloodlines across the sea. But DNA tells another story, a story shocking, unexpected, and deeply unsettling. When scientists finally decoded Punic bones buried beneath Mediterranean shores, the results turned history upside down. These Punics, who spoke Semitic languages, worshipped gods from the Middle East, and built cities echoing their Levantine heritage, carried almost no genetic link to their supposed ancestors. They looked Levantine, spoke Levantine, lived Levantine, but their DNA whispered of a different homeland entirely. It spoke of Europe, of prehistoric Sicilians, ancient Aegean islanders, populations far removed from their claimed heritage. How could an entire culture be so separate from its genetic roots? Meanwhile, deep within Morocco's mountains and deserts, another story unfolds: the Amazigh, often called Berbers, proudly maintaining their ancient identity. In these tribes, nearly half their DNA stretches back to Morocco's earliest inhabitants, the Ibero-Maurusians. Yet today, many Amazigh speak Arabic, call themselves Arabs, absorbing new cultures while their genetics remain stubbornly ancient. Two cultures, two mysteries, one adopting languages and customs without shifting DNA, the other holding ancient DNA yet embracing modern identities. Both cases challenge something profound, the very meaning of who we are. Can our genetics truly define us? Or does identity lie in the stories we choose to tell, the languages we adopt, the customs we cherish? This puzzle asks an unsettling question. Can the core of who we are, who we claim to be, remain completely separate from the blood flowing in our veins? And if so, what does that mean for the hidden lineages still buried beneath Morocco's modern face, waiting silently, patiently, to be uncovered? In 2025, scientists launched a project they thought would confirm the obvious: a genome map of Morocco, a land shaped by Arab, African, and European migrations. But what they found shook the foundation of everything they expected. Over 27 million genetic variants, mapped, cataloged, decoded, and hidden among them, over 1 million mutations found nowhere else on Earth. Not in Europe, not in Africa, not in the Middle East. A fingerprint unlike any neighbors. Modern Moroccans, it turns out, are not simply a blend of outside influences. Their DNA holds something deeper, older, something that refuses to be boxed in by the usual categories. In some individuals, over 45% of their ancestry can be traced to lineages older than cities, older than empires, lineages that go back to people who lived and died before pyramids rose, before Arabic or French ever touched Moroccan soil. And yet, many of these same individuals today carry Arabic names, speak European languages, wear Western clothes, live global lives. How can a people so ancient, so genetically distinct, also feel so modern, so hybrid? This contradiction pulses at the center of Moroccan identity. In the streets of Casablanca, in the villages of the Rif, in the deep silence of the Sahara, you feel it. A tension between blood and belonging, between heritage and nation. Because identity isn't always visible. It doesn't always follow the rules we're taught. Sometimes it's buried, hidden, passed quietly through mothers, through fathers, through stories never spoken aloud. And just when scientists thought they'd mapped the limits of Moroccan diversity, just when they thought they had it all on paper, another discovery surfaced. One link, one thread of DNA that stretched far beyond Africa, across sea and ice, past mountains and memory, a connection that should not exist. Yet one genetic link defied all expectations, spanning 9,000 miles. It begins with a whisper in the genome, a shared strand, quiet, invisible, connecting people who live beneath the northern lights to those who once walked the sands of the Sahara, thousands of years and over 9,000 miles apart. The Sami people, reindeer herders of the Arctic Circle, carry a genetic signature. So do the Berbers of North Africa. Two cultures with no common language, no shared myths, no ancient trade routes. And yet their DNA says otherwise. How? To find the answer, we have to go back to the Ice Age, when Europe was still wrapped in glaciers, and small bands of hunter-gatherers moved silently through frozen forests. As the ice began to melt, some turned north, chasing herds into colder lands. But others did the unthinkable. They turned south. They crossed the Strait of Gibraltar, not with armies, not with ships, but with families, fire, and memory, into a land unknown, into North Africa, long before history began. What they left behind wasn't just obsidian blades or burial stones. It was a fragment of identity, passed down, hidden in blood. No scrolls recorded this journey. No monument was built for these people. But their mark remains, etched in the genes of two populations that history tried to keep apart. It's a connection that breaks the rules, that forces us to look again at what we think separates us: continent, language, time. Because maybe we've been asking the wrong questions all along. Maybe it's not where people went, but where they began. Because if Morocco and the Arctic share a common root, if two peoples with no shared past are bonded by ancient blood, then we must ask, was Morocco the cradle of humanity itself? For over a century, the story of human origin pointed in one direction: East Africa, the Rift Valley, the so-called cradle of mankind. But then a skull. In a cave. In western Morocco, Jebel Irhoud. At first, no one believed it. The face was too modern, the tools too old. It didn't make sense. Until the dating came back, 300,000 years. Not just older than expected, older than any known Homo sapiens on Earth. Suddenly, the entire map of human history began to tilt west. Picture it. Ancient families moving across what would one day be Morocco, their feet pressing into warm, fertile soil. Children chasing gazelles across grasslands. Elders carving tools from stone, not for survival, but for ceremony. These weren't primitive apes, they were us. Our kind. Living, loving, dreaming, long before the world knew who we were. And they weren't hidden. They thrived. Not in a valley marked by textbooks, but on cliffs kissed by Atlantic winds, beneath North African stars. It's a truth that rewrites more than a timeline. It shifts the center of everything. Our origins, our migrations, our myths. What if the first human wasn't born beneath the acacia trees of Kenya, but beneath the olive branches of Morocco? What if our first stories, our first fire, our first fear, our first hope, began not in the east, but here, in the far west of Africa? And if Morocco holds our beginning, what else might it still be hiding? Because just as one truth rose from the dust of Jebel Irhoud, clear, solid, undeniable, it uncovered something else. A shadow, a silence, a mystery even older, still waiting in the bones beneath the sand. There are names we've never spoken, faces lost to time, bloodlines erased not by war, but by silence. For every lineage we've uncovered in Morocco, there are dozens more that vanished without a trace. No bones, no writing, no memory, but the DNA remembers. Buried in dry caves, under shifting sands, locked in molars and marrow, are stories too old for language. Stories of tribes who lived beyond the reach of empire, who traded without maps, who worshipped under stars we no longer name. They walked across mountains now forgotten, fished in rivers that no longer flow, loved, lost, survived, then disappeared, and still their fragments remain. One child buried with a carved pendant, one skull in an unnamed dune, one mutation that doesn't match anything we've ever seen. Each one a whisper from a world that should have been lost forever, but isn't. Because every time we dig deeper into Moroccan soil, we find something older than expected, stranger than predicted, more human than we imagined. It's not just about Morocco anymore. It's about all of Africa, a continent whose genetic map is still unfinished, where entire civilizations may have come and gone, and left no ruins, no kings, no flags, only blood. What if the answers aren't in libraries, but in cemeteries no one's ever found? What if the next truth lies hidden in a skeleton beneath a schoolyard, or inside the tooth of a girl buried by her mother 12,000 years ago? What if the past isn't gone, but waiting? We have barely scratched the surface. What other secrets await discovery? Next, we uncover Africa's hidden DNA legacy, secrets waiting thousands of years to be told.